Ooh, I love a buttered biscuit.
So gather round, let the stories begin. In the realm of Sunday spice, where joy always wins with Shizzywhiznut leading the way. We'll laugh and we'll smile through night and day. Sunday spice, a show of delight, written by the I and all the voices that ignite. From dictionary deep up to Kaiser Pineapple's mind. Each guest brings the magic to just one night.
Well, it's that time, ladies and gentlemen, just to
Ooh, I love a buttered biscuit.
welcome, Diva.
Hello. I
How are
love that
you?
intro. Love it.
I know it is. It's so calming and peaceful. I mean, it's
is.
all about the redhead. I
It
mean,
is. It's all about the redheads.
but if you're gonna bring in a redhead, oh yeah, just bringing them in left and right. I mean, they're just showing up and getting all hot and steamy like this guy. This hell just is
Let's
not.
go, baby!
Let's bring it. Let's bring this guy.
Hey, how's everybody doing? Hi, everybody.
Almost the whole crew is here, but we just
Yeah.
unfortunately, we don't have Welsh Lady with us tonight. Hopefully, she is sleeping very peacefully and just resting and relaxing
Yeah.
because that is what she is needing, just a little peace and quiet. So very
Yeah.
tonight. Just kidding. We're not going to be calm at all. We're going to be
No, hell no.
Well, we're going to be the opposite of that. I mean, you know.
yes, we are. We're going to be so bad. Oh,
Naughty.
Hey,
Naughty,
Stacey.
naughty.
hey, Stacy, how you doing?
Abby.
Oh my Gosh, Stacy, Debbie, Sir Frank, Otter.
Mhm.
Gosh, we've got a whole full house here. Audio coffee. We've got Janice MB. Nice to see you. She's like, hey, Dictionary Diva. Yes. Christine, how you doing? Good to see you tonight. We've got Taz in the house with us. Oh yeah.
Hey, there we go.
And there is the writer of this
There
book.
she is.
Teresa
Hey.
Yes. Oh my gosh, we've got some really really good stuff for you tonight. We're at chapter 7.
Hard to believe.
Oh yeah. All right, let's see if we can get this thing going here. What do we have here? Well, Emma, she kneeled on one knee. Two. So it's one knee.
Two's better.
Yeah, two is better. To attach the last trail cam. Well, and she's putting up the trail cams. Why is she putting up these trail cams? Then looked around the area. Ooh. She had found the trail yesterday after Sean had left. The feeling of his lips still tingling on hers. On her mouth?
There's
Maybe.
medication for that.
You know, if he shaved, you wouldn't have this problem of tingling her lips. As she
Cold,
set
razor
up,
burn.
she set up all the equipment and calibrated them. Even seeing Asher's blip on her computer hadn't distracted her. She decided that a hike towards the blip is what she needed. Hiking up the same trail, she discovered she would stop a few hundred yards to secure a trail cam to a tree trunk and then move on. Now, as she secured the last camera onto a tree, she checked the area to make sure that she had not only had the trail, but some of the area surrounding the trail, and started her OnlyFans dance. Satisfied, she picked up her pack, swung it on her back, then continued to follow the same trail until she came to the edge, seeing the meadow she discovered on her map. The sun was bright, reflecting off the mountain lake that sat in the middle, and no, there was no sparkly vampires there. And it called to her. When she had packed her bag this morning, she had packed lunch, a blanket, and a book, along with her equipment. Emma stepped out of the trees and into the expansive meadow. She stopped, feet faltering slightly. She looked like the meadow in her recurring nightmare that kept her up at night. That's not all that kept her up at night. Sometimes for days.
Lord.
It looked different from the one she had lost her parents in, and yet still the same. All these meadows looked the same. It was bright with wildflowers growing everywhere, tall grasses for the animals to eat, like she remembered. But she had never dreamed that there was a large lake in the middle of it. It couldn't be the same one. Oh no, couldn't be. She headed through the meadow to the huge boulder with the flat top sitting at the edge of the lake. The sound of the water lapping at the shore would be her music as she ate her lunch. And read for a while. She would forget about nightmares and work. It was time to take care of herself. Something that's not true. She did not really take care of herself. She took care of herself quite a bit.
What's up with all these didgeridoos around here? I don't understand.
Son, that thing is not a didgeridoo.
The didgeridoo.
That ain't where they belong.
Oh my.
Letting her
I don't go there.
Letting her backpack slip from her shoulder. That's not all. And the drop to the ground, she sat next to it. She crossed her legs, leaned back, pulled out her ham sandwich. It's more like an open-faced roast beef sandwich. And the latest Lauren Rao book, she let out a breath.
The tuna wrap.
Opening to the last page she read, she took a bite out of that sandwich and she felt herself drawn into the magic world of the author expertly wove. A slight breeze played with her hair. I thought she shaved. Forcing her to tuck it behind her ears and out of the way. That is some long hair. She's tucking it behind her ears. Just saying, you might want to trim it. That's all
That'd be
I'm
uncomfortable.
That'd be very,
saying. That would be
Yeah.
uncomfortable.
very.
She should. Well, I guess it depends on how flexible she is.
I
You
don't
should
think
have
there's
brought a hair
anything wrong
tie.
with tucking.
God! That's wrong. That's ignorant there.
You get used to the pain after a while.
This is the first time for a spicy reading, and my hubby is in New York. Dang it! Wait, there's always toys for that.
Oh, just wait.
Oh, it gets better. She should have brought a hair tie because she didn't want to put her hat back on. While it was great when she worked and kept the sun and glare out of her eyes, it would be hot. Well, she needed to feel the sun on her skin for a while. I bet she did. Emma didn't know how long she sat there, absorbed in her book, while the wind and water both sang to her. When a noise had her looking up from the pages, looking around, she didn't see anything but stayed alert. She never knew what could come when walking from the surrounding trees. She felt like something was watching her, but she couldn't tell who or what, so she started. Oh, and then Black Wolf stepped out of the forest. Why did it have to be black? And Emma tilted her head slightly, watching him. It wasn't Asher. She didn't think he would have gotten this big. Plus, the coloring wasn't the same. Well, he's a black wolf. What did you expect?
Well, they're usually bigger.
Yeah. Her heart stammered at the sight. So large. He was all black. Larger than what she would have expected in this area. Last year, they had released the gray wolf back, but he was old and wrinkly. And
Trouble getting his endurance back up.
Oh, great
Yeah,
Mary,
you
just
know.
ain't what she used to be.
there's a blue pill for
you could
that.
follow his trail because his nutsack was dragging along the ground.
I see paw prints and drag marks.
Looked
What
like
is
two
that?
little
Oh,
weeble wobbles just walking right next to each other.
Nut.
Even Ray Charles could see that one.
But she wanted to study their habits and get an idea of just how they were thriving. Well, a hair tie would have helped. But this wolf wasn't a gray wolf. He had just turned his head in her direction. Now, Emma, she stayed still, not wanting to frighten the wolf off or come across as threatening. This meadow was big enough for both of them. The wolf came closer.
Sure it was.
His wild, earthy scent filled the air around her, hiding her the smell of evergreens after a rainstorm.
It's a good smell.
He was closer to the rock. He sat down, and Emma's forehead wrinkled. Well, in confusion, she knew she had a way with animals. Oh, I bet she did, especially wolves. It always amazed her co-workers, but they didn't know she was a wolf shifter. A wolf shifter who hadn't shifted in so long. Emma didn't know if she could just get it up anymore.
Mm.
Hmm.
Hmm.
You want to take over, Diva?
Oh, I get. Yeah, sure.
You're just getting to it. Like,
I'm
you're
like,
ooh.
Oh my goodness.
What are these wolves about to do to each other? I'm
Excuse me
so-
while I whip this out.
Oh my goodness. We both sat watching each other, not moving. Emma took a deep breath and moved slowly toward the wolf. Thankful that he didn't move, he continued to sit there and watch her. Deciding to take a chance, she moved a little closer, then stopped, kneeling as her heart beat so fast and hard. She thought it would be beat right out of her chest. The wolf tilted his head, his nose lifting in the air to scent her, then moved closer to her.
Was she in the downward facing dog, I guess?
I'm really wondering here. Butterflies fluttered in her stomach as Emma watched him. He moved even closer to her, stopping just an arm's length away and That was when Emma felt her wolf seemed to wake up suddenly and stirred like the butterflies from her stomach had flown to her chest and her skin tingled. Emma inhaled sharply at a feeling she hadn't felt in so long. As her instinct sharpened, what was happening? Emma lowered her head, tucking her chin in close in a pose of submission. Yes, letting the wolf know she truly wasn't a threat to him. The wolf stretched out his neck and sniffed her arm, then her hair. Emma held out her hand, palm down, and he sniffed her fingers.
I was going to say, is it Wolf's last name Biden? Good God. So much sniffing going on.
No, you just got to understand where those fingers were a minute ago.
Smelled a little fishy. He seemed satisfied that she would not hurt him and sat down in front of her. Emma lifted her head and gave him a small smile as she reached out, slowly to stroke his fur.
That'd have been fine to sniff her hair.
It was softer than she thought it would be. Oh, and beautiful. She dug her fingers in deeper. Her hand moved to his head, right behind his ear, and then she scratched it until he started scratching his leg, like a dog. And her smile widened when he leaned into her touch.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well, hello there. I'm Emma, and I don't mean any harm. I'm here to learn more about the wolves in this area.
I hate you.
Emma's voice was soft as she continued to pet him, the wolf inside her reaching out to him. She hoped she didn't suddenly shift and wasn't sure if she could control her wolf after so long. But she seemed satisfied as long as Emma continued to pet him. The two of them stayed.
That's the way it works.
Yeah.
Her petting him and him either leaning in to touch or sniffing the arm closest to him. Emma's own wolf finally seemed to settle down, but she could still feel her. A sense of peace settled inside her, and she let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. What was it about this wolf that had awakened her so suddenly? She had been around other wolves, had raised Asher from a pup, but none of them have ever awakened her wolf. Emma stopped petting the wolf and leaned back, exposing her glorious breast to the sunshine. What are you? Oh, wait.
Now we're getting somewhere.
Wait, what?
What? Ooh.
Oh, what are you, my friend? A spirit guide? A figment of my imagination? And I only think I feel what I'm feeling?
Yeah.
The wolf tilted his head as if he understood her and nuzzled her hand again. She gave him one last scratch behind the ears before he stood. He looked at her, then at the forest, and then back at her, as if assessing what his next move was. It startled Emma when he lifted his head and howled. Then gave her one last look before running back into the woods and out of sight. Emma shook her head. She'd experienced nothing like what she had just experienced and wasn't sure what to think. She felt all tingly in the wrong way around an animal, and it really was disconcerting. Wolves tended to shy away from humans, checking them out from a distance, and never ever got as close as the black wolfie did. Slowly standing, she shook out her legs and turned to pack her stuff into her bag. Putting her hat back on, she headed in the opposite direction that the wolf had gone. She wanted to get back to her camp and write this experience down, hoping this wasn't the last time she saw him with her weird thoughts. And glancing over her shoulders to the trees he had disappeared in, something told her he would be back, and her own wolf would stir inside her again.
My.
Mm.
They're steamy.
So steamy. My goodness.
Oh,
Soft fur. Really.
Delicious.
Oh.
Yes, yes.
Right.
Right.
right. Well, I mean, she had very long hair, and he was very good. It was like sweetheart, why are you
her
tucking
showing
that
her
behind
boobies
your
and stuff? So
Yeah, I mean, why are you tucking that hair behind your ears? I mean, just
Hey.
let it grow wild like a wolf.
And look, most of those wolves have to keep a distance. There's been too many harassment lawsuits. Okay.
Yes.
Oh, Lord. All right. Chapter 8. Sean. Sean shifted
Sean Connery.
inside the tree line, then stood and watched him as she gathered her things. She was a wolf shifter. His wolf had sensed it the moment he had gotten close enough. He had even felt it when her wolf had stirred, and the surprised look on her face made him think that she hadn't felt that before, or had been in a while. Why was she suppressing her wolf? He knew she hadn't sensed that Ian, his cousins, were wolves, and they'd been in the bar. Maybe Emma and her wolf were disconnected somehow. He didn't have any answers, but he wouldn't stop until he had them. He thought about his wolf's reaction to her, and then her initial reaction to him. And as his wolf had approached her, he had gone slowly, not wanting to scare her. Instead of being scared and running away from him, she had inched closer to him. Oh, so inching. Yes. Wolves were curious by nature, and his wolf was even more so. Not in that way. His curiosity had gotten him in plenty of trouble. It seemed that Emma was just as curious.
Oh, I bet she was.
I'll let you make your decision on that one.
Let's
Do with that
go.
information as you will. Hey, Jess. Ew.
Oh.
Hmm?
Oh, hold on just a second. We got
What?
something that just happened.
Hey.
I
What we
just
got?
saw
What
something.
happened? What happened?
Breaking
We got-
news.
Hello guys, it's Jovan, and you know what time it is? Disco time!
Hey, Miss Nocturna. How
Yay,
you
more
doing?
chicks! Yay!
As I say, it's 100% less of a sausage fest.
I
Hey, y'all. Sorry, I'm
don't
a
feel
little
so
late.
weird wearing Ball
No.
ass as a hat
Told you that confidence.
now. I mean, it's a sweet ass, but still.
It is.
Ooh, hold on now.
Junior is so good to see you. Oh my gosh. Sorry, I love you guys. You says hiding offline. Sorry, I love you guys. So good to see you. Good to see you.
Good to see you, Jessica. Been
Fantastic.
forever.
Yeah.
It has been forever, yes.
Hey, hey, hey.
Ever, ever.
Ever.
Forever,
Ever,
ever.
ever.
Far too long, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, continuing where we left off, Sean closed his eyes for a moment. Emma's sweet scent mixed with something wild still floated him on the breeze. He
That's 'cause
knew
she needed
now.
it.
Mhm.
Just saying.
Now that his wild scent he picked up was her wolf. But her submissive posture, as his wolf sniffed her, confirmed what his senses had been trying to tell him since the roadhouse. Emma was a wolf shifter who was either suppressing her wolf or the two had become disconnected. I have the same problem with my stereo.
The number you're trying to reach has been
Yeah.
The number you're trying to reach has been thoroughly disconnected, so fuck off, mate.
Oh, God.
He will never forget her genuine joy that his wolf had allowed her to pet him and to scratch him behind the ears. His wolf had been drawn to her and wanted nothing more than to stay there and let her keep doing it.
So more than
It took
just
a lot
that.
of coaxing from Sean to get the wolf to leave her, and he wasn't too happy about it either. Sean moved through the trees as Emma made her way back down the trail, keeping his distance so as she didn't see him. She stopped and checked a few cameras she had set up, then moved on until she finally reached her camp. Some containers and toolboxes he had helped her with were sitting around open, and she had closed them one by one until she sat down in her chair and looked at the laptop in front of her. Emma intrigued him, and he was enjoying watching her. Oh my.
OnlyFans is a thing.
This is free 99 though.
Oh, man.
But yes, it's $3.99 a minute or up. I'm not sure. I'm not exactly in that area. I don't know the pricing gauges. So, give me a break. The gentle sway of her hips and the way she chewed on her bottom lip as she looked at her laptop and his cock hollow.
Wow.
Damn, right to it.
My.
Before she
Right.
found
Okay.
the man and not the wolf. A naked man with a raging hard-on, to be exact. Reluctantly turning away and heading back into the forest, he shifted back into his wolf and decided he would come back later and maybe find out why she seemed surprised by her wolf staring. Maybe get a little staring action with his wolf, if you know what I mean. The wolf ran to the lodge and shifted when he came to his back deck before walking inside. Do with that information as you will.
I'm sure,
Two of
man.
his enforcers met him in the hall as he was picking up his clothes, oblivious that he was naked. They were silent as they followed him to his office, stressing as he went. We need to talk, Sean. Jimmy spoke up as he walked into his office, and Sean nodded and sat down. He leaned forward, resting his arms on the desk as Jimmy shut the door and the two enforcers took seats in front of him. He crossed his arms and waited until Jimmy spoke again. Yeah, we scouting because we heard that some strangers not far from here wanted to check them out. What was a woman and who we think is a researcher or scientist or something. She seemed harmless enough. Sean held his breath at the mention of Emma, but let it out slowly when his men had determined she wasn't a threat. And the other one? The two men looked at each other and back to Sean. We think the other one's connected to Corbin. Sean straightened, his shoulders going back and his wolf growling. James Corbin was a monster, not unlike the one raging in his pants. He and his men hunted shifters, got them to shift, prevented them from shifting back with some drug they had shot them with, then skinned them, sometimes alive. His brother Finn had been hunting the man for years until he had gotten a lead on two hunters. He'd followed them to Durango and gotten himself captured. He'd escaped barely, but with the help of his mate Claire. Yes, book 1, by the way. His wolf started prowling, continued to growl and pace back and forth. Sean didn't want his men, he wanted Corbin.
Pervert.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
It had been
Go
Corbin
for the
himself.
girl that's like doing herself
Right.
on a rock.
Okay, look, I'm not one to judge there, but you got some primary mistake there.
But here we are.
Don't hate the game, or don't hate the player, hate the game.
Oh God, yes.
Finn had only been about 4 at the time, and their mother had protected him from Corbin. He wounded and skinned her while she was still alive, leaving her body to the elements. Finn had come running all the way to the lodge, screaming and barely able to speak. Sean, 16 at the time, and his father, along with the pack's enforcers, had tracked and retraced Finn's trail. They had found her wolf form, no fur, barely breathing. They'd all taken their coats and shirts off and wrapped her in them, and his father carried her back to the lodge. She'd lived only 2 more hours, howling in pain, unable to shift, unable to heal herself, until her body simply gave out on her. That's a little bit disturbing. I think the poor chap could use some psychiatric help. Yes.
Well, they skinned her alive, man. What you expecting?
Right. Well, should I continue, or do you want to pick up where I left off?
No, go right ahead. You're perfectly
Okay,
fine.
so I'll finish this section.
Yes.
Okay. They had buried her, but Sean should have buried his father right beside her. Then Gray O'Reilly had become a shell of a man who had never shifted again. Sean had watched him slowly slip away from them, dying a little bit each day. He had stopped doing his duties as the alpha of the pack and turned to Sean, barely 18, to lead them. Sean had been the alpha from that day on. He raised Finn and his 2 brothers and eventually buried his father next to his mother. Sean shook himself from his thoughts and stood, walking over to the map of the entire area hanging on the wall. Yeah, where did you see Corbin's men? The 2 enforcers stood and walked to the map, pointing in the opposite direction of Emma's campsite. Sean breathed a small sigh of relief. Yeah, we don't see Corbin, but we followed the guy we saw to his camp, including the vehicle. Since we couldn't make sense of what was there, we just checked the camp out, and like I said, all signs point to it being Corbin himself. Damn it. Sean punched the map in the area Jimmy had pointed and walked back and sit behind his desk. Anger rose in him, his blood boiling at the thought of the monster so close to the pack's females and cubs. Trying to shake off his anger, he leaned back in his chair and waited for the 2 men to sit back down. I'm calling a meeting of the enforcers. God, spread the word. I want one of them here in 2 hours. The 2 enforcers looked to each other and back to Sean. Every one of them? Sean nodded. Yes. Yes, even Ben. But don't worry, I'll call him in. I don't want anyone harmed. He'll come in for me, grudgingly, but he'll come in. The 2 enforcers stood and nodded before heading out of the office. Sean knew that they'd get 11 of the 12 enforcers in the meeting. The trick would be getting Ben in from his cabin, or outpost, as Ben liked to call it. Sean pulled out his phone and hit the speed dial. He waited, wondering if the wolf would answer his phone. But just as he was about to hang up, Ben's voice came on. Yeah, what? It was just one word, but a world of anger was behind it. It's Sean. I know who the fuck it is. What do you want? I'm very busy. Sean barely stopped the laugh that came to his lips. He didn't want to know what Ben was busy doing. That's Corbin. He's back, close to Packlands. I want all the enforcers here in 2 hours to discuss a game plan. If we're right, play our cards right, we'll get the bastard this time. There was silence on the other line, and Sean thought Ben had hung up. Yeah, I'll give you my plan. I'll kill the fucker. Ooh. Sean pinched the top of his nose and let out a long sigh. He knew Ben and his reasons for wanting to kill Corbin. Corbin and his men had caught and tortured his mate and child. They had tortured his mate while his little girl watched from a small kennel meant for a dog. While Sean and Ben had finally found them, both were barely clinging to life. But like Sean's mother, Ben's mate had died a few hours after he got her home. His little girl had died in his arms on the way home. This is dark.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Isn't it cool?
This guy's not nice.
Definitely
Teresa's language is offending me.
Yeah.
Anger and grief filled Sean's best friend, and Ben had set out on a path of self-destruction until finally Sean had brought him back home. He knew
Here's to self-destruction.
Yes. Considerably that. Indubitably my dear concern. Anyway. Sean had brought him back home. He knew Ben needed the pack and to be surrounded by his own people, or he could care, by his own people who could care and help him grieve. Ben had stayed only long enough to pack his things and leave again, this time settling into an old cabin that had sat on the edge of the packlands for years. Ben never attended pack functions, never had visitors, except for the occasional one from Sean himself, and threatened to beat the hell out of anyone who tried. Ben, I understand, but we need to do this as a pack. Wrong voice. Yeah, Ben, I understand. We need to do this as a pack. Look, what happened to Finn when he tried to get to Corbin was his own. Ben snorted on the other end. Yeah, Finn's a whelp who still wet behind the ears. He went in without a plan. Even got his mate involved. Trust me, I know what I'm doing, and I won't be making the same mistakes. Yeah, look, I'm asking. No, I'm telling you as your alpha can come in. Ben laughed, and Sean closed his eyes, counting to 10. Ben laughed, and Sean closed his eyes, counting to 10, trying to calm himself so he didn't react in anger. Slowly letting out his breath, he switched the phone to his other ear and leaned back in the chair. I'm asking you, as one of your best friend and blood brother, come in, meet with us, help us form a plan so we can get rid of the monster once and for all. Excuse me. Ben fell silent again for a moment. Sean thought he had ended the call. It wasn't until he heard shuffling in the background that he even knew that the phone was still connected. Pulling out other stops on this one, Sean. Sean did not answer, letting the man figure out what he would say. I'll be there in an hour, but know this. I will kill this. I'll still kill the fucking myself, and I won't let anyone else with me when I do. It won't be pretty, and I don't want anyone in the way. Ben ended the phone call, leaving Sean to just sit there and look at his phone for a minute. Yes, he had pulled the blood brother card, and yes, he knew it would have had the desired effect on Ben. What he didn't know was what he didn't know was how he would stop him from. My eyes are crossing. Sorry. What he didn't know was how he would stop his best friend from doing something that could get him killed. Slipping the phone back into his pocket, he looked at the map again, looked at Corbin's campsite and then Emma's. Stopping Ben from getting killed would be easier said than done. However, keeping Corbin far from Emma might prove impossible. But he would go to whatever he could to keep her safe. With that thought, he glanced at his watch. He would hold his meeting, then he would go out and check on her himself. That should reassure his wolf that she was safe. At least, that was what he tried telling himself. But he knew differently. He needed to see her again as much as his wolf.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that was a long read.
That's what, yeah.
You can always take breaks.
That was a longer section than I thought it was going to be.
Oh, yeah.
Me too. I was like, okay.
Well, you can always take a break, and if it starts to get too much, just pass it on.
Yeah.
That was the good thing about that using that voice, is that it doesn't really tire my vocal cords out. So I could read long stretches like that.
Just makes you cross-eyed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit there. Well, that was my contacts drying out on me.
Oh.
Urine helps.
Urine in the eyeballs. No.
Well, unless you got a bladder infection,
No
it's sterile.
No, I mean, saline helps.
No, do not.
I mean, if
take
it's that
Shizzy's
bad, I mean, I
medical
can just take my
advice.
contacts out. And put glasses on. Jesus Christ.
Ladies and gentlemen, Shizzywhiznut does not give medical advice on this show, nor does he give legal advice or relationship advice. Matter of fact, don't listen to his advice at all. Thank you.
We are not doctors.
There you go.
If your pee bag don't look like milk, you're all right.
Oh my
Yeah.
I just threw up in my mouth.
What's better than throwing up in somebody else's? Jeez.
No, that's on them.
Money for that. What are you talking about? Oh.
Got a hot two, spit on that thing.
Alrighty then.
God, I need a drink. Whoa. I need that image out of my mind. Blech.
I will never be the
Well,
same.
at least we brought tears to your eyes, and now you're moisturized
Now you're
again.
moisturized
You're welcome.
again.
You're welcome.
Someone needs their catheter changed.
Yeah, you get the
Oh, look, you filled it all the way up.
Well, you know how I changed out that catheter really quick. It's like pulling a tooth. You just wrap a string around it and slam the door.
It's like full starting a chainsaw.
One
I
crank
like
and
condom
it starts.
casts. They're more fun.
Oh my god. Come on. Come
It makes me feel like I'm doing something.
Following has been closed caption for reality impaired.
Don't judge me.
The funky funk of those is so disgusting.
I feel
I feel violated.
I feel lightheaded at the mere thought of that picture.
So who's reading now?
Well, at this
Take
point,
me away.
at this point, it's going to have to be chapter 4, Emma.
There.
Chapter 4? What chapter
What?
are you on?
Excuse me, I've gotten into the bud and pops, and
Have you been to one of Diddy's parties today?
Lost
Come on,
track
Dad.
of time.
I've been to my own party. Emma walked back into camp feeling exhausted and yet energized. I know the feeling. Today had been a good day. The first day in the field was always busy, exploring the area to find the game trails, then setting up trail cams, because you want to make sure you're out of sight whenever you're doing what you need to do. It was her favorite day in the field. She was outside, deep in the woods where she felt she belonged, but it had been a good day for another reason. She got to stroke the wolf. She couldn't believe the wolf had come up to her like that, allowing her to pet it and caress it and touch it and love it so and be so close to it.
Love it and stroke it. Pet it and
Love it and pet it and stroke it.
I will name it
I'm
George.
gonna make it my
I want to name it
George.
George.
I want to make you my little puppy.
That's right. Then there was her own wolf stirring for the first time in so long, Emma had lost track. What was it about that wolf that awakened her own? She had worked with wolves for over 6 years, and not once had her wolf come awake. In fact, she hadn't felt her wolf since she turned 16. I feel sorry for you.
Wow, that's a long.
You should be
That's a
touched.
long time to not feel your wolf.
Sweetheart, reach out, touch that wolf. Man, excited.
Don't
Rub it.
be shy. The feeling was both frightening and foreign and yet familiar. I bet. I bet.
I bet it did.
Walking into camp, she forgot the wolf for a moment and thought of Sean O'Reilly. She had kissed other men before, but had felt nothing close to the way she felt when Sean kissed her. In fact, she hadn't been interested in a man for a while and had stood next to him as he helped her unload her stuff. Well, you know, sometimes you go through those phases. No, that wasn't right. She had been drawn to him the minute he had sat next to her at the roadhouse. Perhaps wondering where the escape hatch is. At least that's the energy I seem to get.
I sure want to drink that drink you gave to me.
What's the way out of here? It seems to be a common question. Emma set her gear on the picnic table along with her toys, emptying her pack and equipment bag, then checked her watch. If she hurried, she could get cleaned up, pull her laptop out, and turn on her OnlyFans account. Then just take some time just to sit back and enjoy the quiet. When it got darker, she pulled out her telescope and looked at the stars. Not to mention spying everything else with the night vision adaptation. Her adopted father had gotten her interested in stargazing when she was only 6. That is sick. And it bridged a gap between them when she'd first come to live with her adoptive parents. She had secretly hoped that she would see her parents with the telescope, so she spent a lot of time doing it. Her phone rang as she was setting up her laptop, and she smiled when she saw who was calling.
Hey, Sam, what's up?
I was just checking in to make sure you got to where you were going since you didn't let me know you had arrived yesterday. Damn it! She forgot to check in yesterday with Tom. She planned to call him after she had set up camp, but a very sexy man riding a motorcycle who had the softest lips she had ever kissed had distracted her.
Yamaha, you at it again, you son of a-
Yamaha apparently is in this damn book.
Every time Bill's around, I lose track of days and time.
He was wearing those leather chaps.
Assless. All chaps are assless.
Yes, all chaps are assless.
My weapon was already out and ready to go.
Oh, God.
It had really been the kiss and the way her body had responded to it that had distracted her, but she wasn't going to tell Tom that.
I'm sorry, Tom. By the time I got here and set up camp, I was exhausted. You'd be happy to know I slept 6 hours last night.
Shut the front door. You're lying to me, aren't you? Emma laughed and shook her head.
No, I'm not lying to you. It must be the mountain air and the altitude that got to me.
Mountain air. Well, good. I won't keep you. I know you've been working and getting everything set up. I just wanted to check on you.
Thank you for checking up on me. I was out setting up trail cams and just got back to camp. I'll save the rest of the equipment, then relax.
Tom laughed and she knew he was trying to picture her relaxing. She ended the call shaking her head. The man knew her too well. Emma decided to set her laptop up to take readings before she cleaned up. Boy, she's awful messy, isn't she?
She's a dirty girl.
Dirty.
So dirty.
So dirty.
Pulling out her field journal, she made notes. Once that was done, she pulled out her stowaway low chair and her telescope, getting it all set up and ready to go when it was dark enough. You push the one button, it extends. You push the other button, and it vibrates. Looking at her watch, she realized she still had a few hours before it would be dark, or even before she'd cook her dinner over an open fire, naked. She quickly cleaned up. Dear Lord, this woman has an issue. Then took advantage of the downtime to pull her book out and settled in her low chair to read. But a certain wolf kept invading her thoughts, distracting her from the words on the page. There was something special about that wolf, but Emma couldn't quite put her finger on it, though she wanted to.
So she used multiple fingers.
One finger did not do the job.
Power of one, the power of 10, the power of 10.
That's talent.
She'd never had a wolf come that close to her and for it to stay close. Allowing her to pet and scratch him was an even bigger puzzle. The biggest question of all, she thought, as she lay her hand over her chest, now we're getting graphic, and closing her eyes, was how he had made her own wolf stir.
So much stirring.
All right, Nocturna.
All right. Let's see.
There you go.
What would it be? What would it be like to shift again? To let her wolf run wild here in the Colorado wilderness? Perhaps with the wolf that had visited her today, or even Asher? Ooh. She had been 16 the last time she shifted, but she didn't want to think about that nightmare. All she remembered was being with her friends one minute, then being in excruciating pain. Oh, that sounds like medical issue, and shifting into a wolf the next. If she shifted now, would it hurt like it had last time?
No, it hurts worse the first time.
Yeah, I mean, it gets better after time.
Well, it pinches a little when you tug on that catheter, but some people don't even mind it, especially when they're already a little dingy, you know. I've seen them pull it out, balloon and everything, still all inflated. They don't even have a clue.
What would it be like to be one with her wolf? Let her truly be the other half of Emma, like she knew most shifters experienced. Sighing, she stood trying hard not to think about those questions. Even though after feeling her wolf today and suddenly missing her wolf, Emma didn't want to shift again. She had spent too many years as a normal human building a life, a lonely life, but a life all the same. Emma was comfortable in that life, content with the status quo, doing her work in the field but returning to civilization. She knew she wasn't totally happy. There was never anything exciting that happened in this life she'd built, and she was okay with that. It felt normal to her, and she had spent her life wanting nothing more than to be normal.
Why?
Emma stood and went back into her tent and took off her work boots and changed into her running shoes. She needed these thoughts out of her head, and she didn't know of any better way to forget them than to run. Run, Forrest, run! Putting earbuds into her ears, she found the music that motivated her. While she ran and strapped her phone onto her arm, she would run until she was completely exhausted, then came back to settle in for some stargazing.
That telescope.
Is that what we're calling it now?
Well, you call it stargazing after you get the donkey punch. See, and they should clamp down a little bit right there. And all of a sudden they're seeing stars.
So wrong.
Oh, God.
Oh, so true, though, I bet. Anyway, She stepped out of her tent and stopped when she saw Sean pulling up on his bike. Her lips tingled with the memory of their kiss last night as heat rushed through her, pulling between her legs.
Sounds like bladder problems, if you ask me.
Her mouth went dry watching him throw his leg over the seat. His
Maybe Omaha.
t-shirt, his t-shirt stretching stretching tight across his chest, revealing his tight abs and well-muscled body. Her wolf lifted her head as he walked toward her, and confusion filled her.
Just go with it.
That is me.
Just go with it.
Oh, they did.
Confusion. Why is he here?
Is everything okay? The concern in Sean's voice had Emma shaking her head and focusing on him.
Yeah, everything is fine. What brings you out?
Sean grinned and she swallowed. Damn,
she
he was
did.
sexy. Let's see. Oh, yeah. I got those mixed up, Jeannie. I thought there was
You
one
got
equipment one.
it turned on right there.
Ruined. I was, man. Come on. It's hot in here.
Oof.
So, let's see.
Hi,
I was
so hot here.
I mean, the camera's off, so I mean, you know.
Character.
Anyway. So, all right. I'm all screwed up now. Forget it. Let's see. I was curious about what a field researcher's camp might look like. I thought you would. Wait, no, he's butthead. She's fuck it. Who, whatever. Anyway, we're just gonna keep reading and we're just gonna go on. You know, it's fine. I was curious about what a field researcher's camp would look like. I thought there might be more equipment lying around. Emma looked around her camp, trying to see it through his eyes. No, I don't have a lot of equipment. I rely
Just this
on
one
what trail
toy.
cams and the things I can see and touch. I don't always trust technology, except when it has batteries. I have my cell phone. If anyone needs to get a hold of me, my laptop and portable mapping system. She felt the heat of his eyes move down her body, lingering long on her legs, then back up to meet her eyes. Heat crept into her cheeks, but she frowned when her wolf paced. The sensation felt good and hurt all at the same time. Hell yeah! A wave of vertigo washed over her, and she must have swayed because Sean's arms were instantly around her, holding her steady and guiding her to sit down at the table she put up last night. Have a seat on my lap, baby.
Yeah. Let's talk
Are
about
you
the first
okay?
thing that comes into your
Tell
mind.
Santa what you want for Christmas.
Periscope's up.
Hey, Welsh.
Are you okay? He asked again, and she focused on his voice, her eyes never leaving his. It felt like her entire body was in a vice, and she struggled to breathe. She watched Sean as he crouched in front of her, his hands pushing a strand of hair out of her eyes, his fingers lingering on her cheeks for a minute. Which cheeks? Tell me what's wrong. I don't know what's wrong. A blatant lie. She knew, but she didn't know how to explain it. Sean sighed as his eyes settled on her arms. Emma, I know what's wrong. Her frown deepened. God, the man must never think she never smiled.
Was never think. My God, the man must never think.
Pretty much.
Using the old dowsing rod.
What? How do you know what's wrong? He gave her a steady but intense look before he spoke. Emma, I am a wolf, and I can sense the wolf inside you.
Oh,
Oh, yeah.
That's what he
Hey,
just
li-
said. She's like, oh, holy Jesus.
Hey, lady, you want a wolf? You got a wolf inside
yes!
You like a wolf inside you?
Do you want a wolf?
Let the spirit out, girl.
That sounds like the cheesiest pickup line a guy ever gave me. He asked me if I was Italian, and then if I wanted, and when I said no, he's like, "Do you want some in you?" I'm like, you know what? Yeah, that's what that kind of
Maybe.
sounds like. All right, it depends.
Just like,
You know,
maybe.
let's talk about that a few beers in. But
There you go.
At least he wasn't a midget. You say you got a little Italian in you. Do you want some?
you know, I need to hear that one time before I die.
Hey, a few beers is the difference between a 2 at 10 and a 10 at 2.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Yeah, that's
true.
good. Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. So Emma's eyes widened and her breathing came in short pants, as if she'd run a marathon. Her heart raced as she stared at him. She wanted to protest, deny that she was a wolf shifter, denying a very intricate part of herself like she had had her entire life. But feeling her wolf for the first time in years and being around someone who understood felt like being released from a prison that she'd been too afraid to escape from.
Yes.
Mm.
Let it out, girl.
Go, Emma. Go, Emma.
Get some.
Emma closed her eyes. I haven't felt her in so I haven't felt her in so long it almost scared me as she was gone. Even though I had at one time wished she was gone. She had gone quiet for so long. But then I came here. She woke up slowly at first, but now she is fully awake and making her presence known. When was the last time you shifted? Damn it, I can't anymore.
You don't ever want them to fully wake up because they're just more resistive.
No,
Okay.
you do not want them to wake up, let me tell you.
No, because if they fully wake up, they realize that pudding pop wasn't what you wanted them to have.
Ah. Her stomach clenched at the thought of her last shift, and she took a breath. Was 16? The shift came so fast and so unexpectedly that I was terrified of others finding out. I wasn't raised by wolf shifters. Nobody told me. My parents were killed when I was 3. I had no one but my human adoptive parents, and they opened the door and I was mortified.
Oh my God, so much hair.
Close the door, God!
Can't you knock first? My God!
My God. I felt the wolf and daddy was looking like a dog and so was mama. I don't understand.
Sean stroked her cheek, his fingers lightly dancing across her skin. I'm sorry, Emma. I can't imagine not shifting for so long. It'd fall off. She leaned into his touch, butterflies fluttering in her stomach and her muscles twitched. Her wolf was practically prancing around. Her chest tightened suddenly as fear filled her. Standing suddenly, pushing past Sean, panic filled her. She didn't want this. She wanted normal, didn't she? Emma started pacing as Sean straightened. She nibbled her lip nervously, glancing at him, his face unreadable. Finally, she stopped and crossed her arms. Well, thanks for coming to check on me. As you can see, I'm all set up, doing fine. Emma. Look, Sean, I don't want my wolf to wake up like this. I just want to be normal. Go to work, come home, maybe go to dinner with friends, get drunk, pet my cat. I don't want to be a wolf shifter. My wolf can just go away. Sean reached out and touched her arm, stopping her pacing, pulling her closer. He chuckled. Oh, Emma, I don't think that will happen. She wants you. She wants you to run. I don't think you will ever get her to be quiet again. It's happened before. It can happen again. Sean shook his head. Emma, Wait a minute. Emma, I was the wolf you saw today in the meadow. She's responding to being around him. Wait a minute. Where am I? Okay. As long as you're here, she will fight to come out.
Oh my.
Oh my.
We have some repressive feelings going on here, folks.
I mean, she's gotten it all tightened up. Like,
There's a lot of coming out in this chapter. Oh my god.
She's
Let
wound.
the wolf out.
She is wound up tired of dick's hat.
Ooh, let the dog. Oh, never mind. Bad song.
yeah, let the dogs out, man. Go dogs.
Boo.
Boo.
Go big heart.
Chapter 10. Sean.
Yes.
Sean saw the sudden hesitation in Emma's eyes, and for a split second, he thought she would deny what he said and kick him out of her camp. But she didn't. She took a step away from him, but not too far away, just out of his reach. He took that as a good sign. Were you spying on me? Making sure that I was who I said I was? He shook his head, wanting to move closer to her. But he held back. She looked like she spooked easily. Like a wild little defensive horse that, or at least she did right now. And
Needs to be broken.
he didn't want her to run away. Well, that's what hobbling's for. He could see the wound in her eyes. Enter Bill. His wolf could sense it. They were both drawn to her because of it and wanted to help her. And if he couldn't help her, he'd just shoot her. Oh, maybe the pack. I wasn't spying on you. I was running and saw you out in the meadow. My wolf was curious. He had sensed your wolf at the bar, but neither of us were sure. But I promise, there was no spying.
At this time,
Sean saw her relax somewhat, but could see the distrust in her eyes. He wondered what her story was. What had happened to her parents? His stomach tightened. Had Corbin gotten to them? Had he killed them, like he killed his mother? Like he almost killed his brother and his mate? He wanted to ask, but he needed Emma to relax around him again. Look, it will be dark soon. He glanced over at the telescope and smiled. Why don't I stick around for a while? I love stargazing after a donkey punch, and we can talk. It's so fun to watch your eyeballs go around in circles.
oh my god! Oh.
This kind of luck I just can't get over. Emma hesitated a moment and looked at the telescope, then back at him. She let out a breath and her body relaxed. Sean gave her his best smile. I promise I won't bite. She raised an eyebrow. Unless you ask me nicely.
Yeah.
Cards on the table, boys.
Yeah. There you go, snaking it on. She laughed and soon relaxed, loving the sound of it as it filled the campground around them. Wait a minute. Who's this?
Check.
Oh,
Sir.
I was gonna make some campfire stew. Emma walked past him, then looked at him over her shoulder. There's enough to share.
Oh, I bet there is. I bet there's enough to share.
Oh, yeah.
More than enough to go around. Sean helped Emma by starting a fire, and they rubbed vigorously, then sat back as she started the stew. Once it was simmering over the fire, she pulled out another chair from her tent and set it next to the one for her, the telescope between them. How long and hard it is.
Keep picturing this
It's
so
long.
Being very
So
large,
long.
being very black, just sitting there.
All these damn didgeridoos around here. Once the
You
stew
just
was
drop down the
ready,
stew, it'll automatically stir it for you.
I don't want my face splashed with that stew, man. It's hot.
Oh, get off of me!
once the stew was ready, they both took a seat as they ate. This is good. Sean scooped another spoonful into his mouth. You're good at cooking over an open campfire. Makes me think you do this a lot. Emma smiled and nodded as she took a bite. I enjoy being in the field and outdoing everybody else. No, and I try to be out here as much as I can. When I'm not, I have a place at the conservatory. So you're around wolves all the time? Emma nodded. I raised one of him. Well, wait a minute, I can't see when I'm going to. I raised one wolf that we released last year. His mother rejected him, so I took care of him. And I almost got fired for it, but my boss came around.
And came again.
Sean frowned. You raised a pup, then released it out here? Emma rolled her eyes. Don't you start. By the time we released him, we had been living with his pack. I'm hoping to see him while I'm out here. Sean was silent as he thought about the pack that had been released last year. They had a rough time of it at first, and it was all he and his pack could do to take matters into their own hands. But the alpha died that winter, and a new alpha stepped up. Since then, the pack had thrived. They'd even interacted with him and others in his pack. They could often be found around Ben's cabin. Wait a minute. Is this him? Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
No. Yes. Oh, my pack kind of wear watches. Out for the wolves that were released. They had a rough winter, and their alpha died. Emma nodded inside. I know. They're all tagged, and we knew that he had died. I fought to come out then, but my boss wouldn't. He said the tucking was too much. I almost quit, but... Sean chuckled. Your boss wouldn't let you. Sounds like you have a good relationship with your boss. A lot of after-hours work, is there? He's one of my best friends and keeps an eye on me and tries to boss me around and even helps me tuck outside of work. Well, it's nice to have people like that in your life. The pack is the same way. He saw something flash in her eyes, and he instantly regretted her words. She told him her parents died when she was little, which means she may not even know what pack life was like. Sean didn't know what he would have done without his pack when his mother had been killed. But Emma didn't have any of that. That's too bad. I'm glad you had... Wait a minute. Oh. Never mind. I'm glad you have him to boss you around. We all need someone. Emma smiled and nodded. They fell silent for a moment as the light started fading and the forest came alive around them. This was Sean's favorite time of the day. He looked up, seeing stars slowly flickering to life as Emma donkey punched him. In the orange and violet sky, then he saw the moon. Even
He saw that moon.
as he fell to the ground and stared at her ass. Even this early, it was big and bright and full. His muscles twitched and burned as his wolf lifted his head. The wolf wanted to run out under the light of the full moon. Even though his shifting wasn't ruled by the moon, his wolf always got more restless during that time. Sean looked at Emma, the corner of his mouth lifting. She looked over at him and frowned. Then, as he continued to look at her, she laughed nervously and looked at her shirt. What? Did I drop food on my shirt? He stood, shaking his head, and held out his hand to her. It's a full moon. She frowned at him, then looked up at the moon, and then back at him. What are you feeling right now? She swallowed.
Oh, delicious.
And set her food aside. Oh, I feel full now. Sean.
Protein.
Protein.
Sean laughed. Oh my God. I just had a big image in my head right when I was getting ready to read that. Sean laughed and helped her stand. He decided when he saw the full moon that he would help her shift tonight.
More stargazing.
Let that wolf out, baby.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Wolf out.
And he would have to pull on his alpha power. Oh, I almost said member.
Same thing. Same thing.
And he would have to pull on his alpha member to get her to do it again and again. I could feel the moon, but wasn't paying attention. Liar. He put his hand over her stomach, expecting her to step back, and when she didn't, he considered it a win. This one's willing.
Those are the best ones.
It feels like nervous butterflies in my... Oh, wait a minute. No, this is her. If it feels like nervous butterflies in my stomach and in my chest, do you feel that?
Is it cold?
Oh, whatever. Either one. Here. Emma's eyes had widened, and she nodded, looking down at his hand on her stomach. Sean could feel the heat building between them, and Emma's lips parted slightly, and her breathing quickened.
Hi, Megan Fox. Welcome to the chat.
Oh, dear Lord.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it is Sunday.
I'm going to do this, Megan.
And we're getting ready to get all elbow deep in there.
Oh, yeah.
All he wanted right then was to kiss her, and his wolf wasn't helping as it paced impatiently. He could smell her arousal. And he'd watched as her pupils dilated. His wolf wasn't the only one making it difficult for him to stay focused. The head between... Oh, the woman was going to be his undoing. Focus, Emma. Sean's voice seemed to lower slightly as he drew on his alpha member, power, whatever. Emma seemed to give herself a slight shake and focused on him. Good girl. Now, yeah. Told you it was going to start getting dicey. Now, can you feel her? Can you feel your wolf? I can. She wants out, Emma. Let her out and play.
Let her out. Let her out.
Let her out.
Let that wolf out.
Yeah.
Don't
Emma
be
shook her head.
careful when you let them out.
Yeah. Emma shook her head and winced. Pain filled her eyes, and she stepped back, then doubled over with a soft moan. Sean put his hands on her arms, leaning in to talk to her. Just breathe through it, Emma. It's only a little pinch. The pain will go away, I promise. You can take some Advil afterwards. No, you don't understand. She dropped to her knees, her breath coming in tiny pants. or his tiny pants? Was he wearing pants? He kneeled next to her, watching her, as Baker would say, muscles ripple and tighten as she shifted. It was slow at first. It's the best way to go. Then suddenly a beautiful silver wolf stood there where she had been kneeling. Aren't you beautiful? Sean sat back on his heels and held out his hand. The wolf sniffed it, then licked it once before stepping back and shaking out his fur.
Yeah.
Yeah, lick it once, maybe twice.
Just a little tease. With barely a thought, he shifted, his wolf turning toward her, and nudged her, then nipped at her before he took off into the woods. Oh, this dude's a tease, not even looking back to see if she followed him. Wow. He licked her once and ran away.
Doggy style.
Wow.
No, it's more wolfish style, if you know what I mean.
Megan, who's tiny
Oh, my
pants?
God. Megan Fox, yep, I'm out. Apparently he scared her away.
Nippy.
It's getting all nipply up in here.
Get very spicy in here. Because, Emma realized she hadn't fought the shift very hard, and her wolf had taken control. Sean's soothing and encouraging voice reminded her of her own father when she was little. And the pull of that full moon had been too much for her resolve. That pain had nearly stopped her. It felt like her bones were breaking, then instantly knitting themselves back together. Tiny needles had pierced her skin as her silver fur covered her. It was all so wonderful and pain overwhelming, and she had loved it.
Wait, silver fur. How old's this chick?
But she's still a youngster, but she's a silver wolf because she gets all nice and shiny. Everything was more vivid to her as she ran through the woods. She was chasing that big black wolf. Even in the waning light of the trees were greener, and that smell of that pine. Yeah. The earthy smell of decomposing leaves was stronger. Lifting that sexy little snout in the air, she could pick up the scent of water from a lake and could hear the crunch of dead pine needles and twigs underfoot. This was all a far cry from the first time she had shifted. That girl had been surrounded by houses and the sounds of cars. But here, nothing but trees and fresh air. It was exhilarating. All she wanted to do was run on, never stop. Run, Forrest, run! Silver wolf, she burst through the trees into a meadow where Emma had been stopped for lunch earlier. That sky was dark, violet color as the sun was sitting over them there mountains, and the stars were still popping out. It must have been that donkey punch, but it was the slowly climbing in the sky that called to her. She could feel it tugging at her heart. That big black wolf stopped running and turned to watch her catch up with him. She came to a stop next to him, sat down, panting from that exertion. He watched her for a few moments, then threw his head back and let out a deep, soulful howl. What'd you expect from that big black wolf? When he stopped, she heard the distant sound of the other wolves responding to the howl and lifted her head. Oh, she howled just the same as the sounds of the howls echoed through the night air. Emma suddenly shifted and found herself sitting on the ground, looking back at the big black wolf. Her heart beat wild in her chest, and she took several deep breaths. That big black wolf shifted. Sean kneeled beside her. Hey, girl, you okay? Emma? Emma nodded. Her senses, they were on overload. She leaned her head back and looked at the moon again. She felt her body respond to it like a long-lost lover. Prickles of awareness inched over her skin. She looked at Sean again. She launched herself at him, arms wrapping around him, legs just wrapping on him, knocking him backwards, feeling the heat of the skin against her own. She lowered her head, claimed his lips in a deep, deep, sensual kiss. Tearing her mouth away, she pressed hot, open-mouthed kisses to his hair, roughened skin. The world tilting, she suddenly found herself on her back. He kissed her again,
generally.
kissing her like he'd never been kissed before. Breaking the kiss, he dropped his head to trail the kisses down her neck, nipping at her skin, sending shivers over her body. He lingered at that area where her neck met her shoulder, placing open-mouthed kisses, nipped her harder before kissing down her shoulder. Sean's hand lifted her slightly as he kissed down her body, licking and lapping as he went. He kissed her breast, his tongue lashing at her them hot nipples, then moved to her rib cage and her belly button, moving back up to them nipples. He cast one between his teeth, his tongue licking it as he bit, making her groan and clutch his hair. Oh, all that thought left her when he moved and kissed her in her thighs.
Yeah.
Where P did it at? I need more baby oil.
I got a drum in the back.
I'm in the
I'm
slam
getting all dry over here.
Handshake, guys. Handshake.
Yeah. Bad boy for life.
All thought left her when he moved and kissed her in her thighs, making her shudder violently with arousal and anticipation. He dropped a kiss to her delicate fold, running his tongue up and down them, then slipping past them to her aching clit. She spread her legs wider, and he settled between them their legs. Breathing harder, her fingers digging into his hair, she felt his warm breath tickling her most private area. A moment before his tongue licked them folds again, thrusting deep inside her, then licking up to circle her little happy place. The man in the boat. She moaned, lifting her hips, grinding, needing more from him. Her body was a-trembling. She was a-making her quiver and yearn like nothing she'd ever felt before. Her body suddenly tightened and tried to press his head closer. She grabbed it. She pulled it back. Opening her eyes, she looked up at him, and he shook his head. Oh, not yet, my beautiful wolf. His kisses, the soft skin of her inner thighs as he slid a finger deep inside her. Hooked his finger to brush against a tiny bundle of nerves deep inside her. She let her head drop back to the ground and cried out, howling like a... The sound echoing around him. Ooh, he lowered his head again and sucked that man in the little boat into his mouth. Oh, Emma started.
He just kept rowing.
Oh,
body
that man in the boat.
Suddenly.
Schooner.
Oh, she was writhing beneath him, screaming out her orgasms into the night. Slowly, she came back down.
My mind keeps telling me no, but my body.
Yes.
I gotta set him loose on that dinghy.
Saying aye.
Set that little man free.
She grabbed at the grass and writhing beneath him, screamed out her orgasms into the night. She's saying, "Oh, daddy, oh, daddy." Slowly, she came back down.
Who's a bad wolf? Who's a bad wolf?
Who's a bad wolf? Why does Kevin? Why does he sound like Kevin Spacey? That's creepy. Because there's nothing that old man ain't gonna do. He's like,
somebody's
"No,
seen
man."
House of Cards. Just saying.
God.
Oh, yeah.
She had never had an orgasm like that. She hadn't slept with that many men. Well, how many men that be? She been sleeping with hoe? She'd been really had nothing to compare. Still, she never thought it was possible to have such a forceful orgasm. Yet she still needed more. She needed him inside her. Sean, he kissed his way back up her body until his body covered hers. Then he kissed her lips. She wrapped her arms around him, loving the taste of herself on his lips. He lifted his head. She looked up at him, searching his eyes, her body still trumming from the aftershocks of her orgasm. That was amazing, Sean. He smiled and brushed a soft kiss over her lips. Girl, you ain't seen nothing yet. His smile widened, and all she could think was it looked like a wolf smiling at his prey, but she wasn't his prey. She wasn't scared of that wolfish smile he gave her. No, baby. She was excited, exhilarated, impatient for more. She wasn't afraid of that big bad wolf. She was hungry for more and couldn't wait for the wolf just to devour her.
Wow. Woo. That's a bit.
Oh.
How you feel, Shizzy?
That's about on par with the other ones we've read.
It is pretty much.
If you haven't seen some of our earlier shows reading Teresa Finn's work, go check those out.
So just go through the Shizzywhiznut back catalog and look for Spicy
it's
Sunday.
there.
That first one was about chapter 1 before we got into the fisting.
Oh, yeah.
0 to 100 on that book.
Oh, you know what? You know what we need to do? We need to move Elmo in here.
Okay, so I guess
Everybody
I need to
wants
adjust the
Elmo.
microphone and all that. There we go.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Get you some, puppet boy.
Chapter 11, Sean. Sean's heart was beating so wildly he thought it could beat right out of his chest. Emma was amazing. She felt amazing. She tasted amazing. Amazing sounds when she let herself go.
Wow.
He'd only known her for a few days, but that didn't seem to matter. He felt such a deep connection, I'm sure he did, with her and been drawn to her from the moment I saw her sitting at the end of the bar.
It's weird preposition, or weird tonality change there. Okay.
No wonder for his wife was
Everyone's
insisting that she was
child
his
is
mate.
crying.
She was perfect for him.
I missed that. What?
I said, and somewhere out there, everyone's childhood is crying.
Oh,
Picturing Elmo.
And say bad Elmo hasn't even really come out yet. That's just the the tip of the
I
iceberg.
He claimed her lips as her lips again in the scorching, scintillating kisses that stirred his breast. Yes. Moving his hands down her body, he dug his fingers into her hips and lifted her. He slowly slid into her until he was balls deep in her body and wrapped around his aching arousals, ready to meet everyone he had.
Oh, get some going.
Get some, boy.
Get in there and root around.
Pulling out slowly, he sank back into her, setting a slow, steady rhythm at first, but slow wasn't what he wanted or needed. Raising up on his knees, he lifted her against him, thrust hard and deep, her gasping and moans urged him on. He rocked his hips, going even deeper, pushing, pulling out and thrusting harder inside of her. His fingers dove into her delicate softness, making her back forward. Her body clamped down around him. And right before she screamed out to release this. Burn followed her over the edge. John moved and lay down next to Emma, pulling her to him. Her hand moved over his chest as she turned into.
How do you? Sorry. Oh, got the wrong voice there. Okay.
So, how do you feel, Emma?
Oh, God.
Do you need to slip into a Slim Jim? Yeah. Yeah, because you know the cream always rises to the top. Oh,
Oh, God.
yeah. And my cream is super thick.
Anyway, meanwhile, back at the ranch.
She laughed softly. I'm sore, but I think it's from shifting that way. Sean brushed her hair from her forehead and then took her hand and kissed her palm.
I think it'll get easier, I promise. But we'll help work these kinks out if you want. Emphasis on the kinks. Oh, yeah. So many kinks. Yeah.
I'm going to straighten that colon out.
I picked you up on that. John sat up and smiled at her and then kissed her. Speaking of help to work out the kinks, we should get back.
Oh, wait, sorry, that's the wrong voice.
Speaking of helping you work out those kinks, we should get you back to camp. As fun as this is, it's getting cold.
He stood and held out his hand, helping her up, then shifted it to his roof. Emma smiled and scratched him behind the ear, then shifted. Faster this time, but not as fast as Sean. They ran through the meadow and disappeared into the trees, heading to a camp. Oh, yeah.
That's the way to go, Elmo. Do it, yeah.
All I can think of is like the preacher lady from Saturday Night Live. Well,
isn't that special?
Or isn't that special? Yes. Isn't that special?
Could it be Satan?
Oh my God, I had to keep muting or else you weren't going to be able to read.
I know.
You know, it was that moment where Shiz is like, go ahead and I just saw my avatar move up and I'm like, yep, here we go. Let's do this.
Yes. Yes, indeed.
I got a chance to do put both Elmo and Gollum and Macho Man all into the same read. Oh boy.
Yeah. Sean opened his eyes, lifting his head. Some sound had woken him up, and he used all of his senses to reach out around them. He heard the sound again and realized it was his phone. Slowly slipping out of the camping bed, pulling the covers up over Emma as she mumbled something and rolled over. He grabbed his phone from his jeans and stepped out of the tent. Goosebumps instantly spread across his bare skin when he stepped into the cool night air. He shivered as he answered his phone on the third tone and growled. Sorry. What?
Sean, where are you? We've been looking for you.
Ben's voice boomed over the phone.
Well, you found me. What's up and what time is it?
Sean looked up to see the first rays of the sun starting to light the sky. The moon was almost out of sight, and he knew he'd never look at that full moon the same way again. The night spent with Emma had been something he'd never experienced with a woman before. Her wolf was beautiful, especially the way the moon had reflected off of her stunning silver fur. Recognizing the alpha in him, she had been submissive and giving, yet demanding and strong. The woman had been no different.
Yeah, baby.
Emma had a sensual side to her he had not expected. Emma was exactly what the mate of an alpha should be. No wonder his wolf had recognized her immediately.
There was a kill last night, and we believe it was Corbin, and not just one of his men. Where and who was killed?
Sean stiffened at the mention of Corbin. If the man was in the area, he needed to convince Emma to come to the lodge. He was certain that her wolf's pelt would bring a big payout for the monster. And Sean would be damned if that would happen to Emma. There was silence on the other end, and Sean gripped his phone tighter, dreading the answer to his question. He had completely forgotten why he had come out to Emma's camp yesterday when they had talked about her wolf. It was a mistake he wouldn't repeat. Her safety and the safety of his pack had to be his number one priority.
You know that lion pride that settled in the mountains up on the pass? One of them. When we couldn't reach you, I sent Jimmy up to talk to them. But Sean, it wasn't far from that researcher's camp. That woman you were telling me about.
Sean paced a minute, still clutching his phone. I can't remember my dude's voice. I'll just make up a new one.
There you go.
That's
I'll
okay,
be
that
back
one
to
does
the
it for me.
lodge in 30. I want everyone there. He ended the call, forcing himself to loosen his grip on his phone before he broke it. He stepped back into Emma's tent to see her still sleeping, precious baby. Her arms wrapped around his pillow. The blankets had fallen to her waist, and he could see the delicate lines of her back, her strong arms. The woman was just as beautiful and sleek as the wolf. All he wanted to do was crawl back in bed with her and spend the day learning every curve of her body. Hear the sounds of her release over and over. But he knew he couldn't. They had work to do. Emma! He softly trailed his fingers over her arms and watched as goosebumps spread over her delicate skin. Wake up, Emma! Sweetheart, we need to talk. She frowned and opened her eyes, rolling onto her back. When she saw him, she gave him a heart-stopping smile, rubbing her eyes and reaching out to touch his arm. Morning, darling. Sean smiled down at her and brushed her hair back. Well, good morning, sunshine. How you feeling? Emma stretched a little, then laughed softly. Well, I'm a little sore, but I'm not sure if it's from shifting.
That's awesome.
Ma's been getting it rough.
To get in to feel the bones, Mom.
That explains the silver fur.
You get some,
I'm not
Grandma.
sure
Good
if
on
it's
you.
from shifting or from you, honey. Woo!
Wait a minute, are we
Good
in-
workout.
Are we in the villages here?
Mm-hmm.
You want to help me work out my muscles? Whippersnapper? Well, there's nothing more I want this morning, but we can't. His smile faded and she sat up, clutching the blankets to her chest. Well, honey, what's wrong? Sean took a deep breath, then leaned in to brush a kiss over her lips before sitting back. He hated to bust that bubble of happiness she seemed to have. Well, I reckon I'll tell you as we get dressed. I need to get back to the pack, and I want you to come with me. Emma scrambled from the bed, pulling a t-shirt over her tousled hair, and searched for her jeans. Do you want me to whip up some coffee or some breakfast, honey? She slipped into her jeans and zipped them up. The corner of Sean's lips curved as she tried to tame the tangle of dark auburn hair. Finally, pulling the unruly hair back into a ponytail, she looked at him. So, honey, why do you want me to come with you? My pack has been pursuing this man by the name of James Corbin. He and his men hunt shifters for their pelts. He killed my mother when I was younger, and secretly we're brother and sister, honey, but I can't tell you that. My youngest brother, Finn, who was only 4, watched it happen. He's a monster who has ruined the lives of many in my pack. Who knows how many other shifters he's killed? Oh, there's no more romance with the old lady anymore.
That's all right. There's been enough sinning going on in here tonight.
Time to go to church.
Emma sat with a cup of coffee in her hands to stop them from shaking and staring at Sean and all the sinning they had been doing in disbelief. It wasn't that she didn't believe there were monsters in this world. Oh, no, sir. She had first-hand knowledge of that. But what kind of a man did a horrific thing to another living being? I tell you. Are the shifters already shifted? Is that how he knows who he will kill? She knew none of her questions quite made sense, but she couldn't wrap her head around it. Sean sat down at the camp table across from her and took one of her hands in his. Well, we don't know. We haven't figured out a motive. But you're not safe here. Come back to the pack with me, Emma. You set up your base there, and either me or one of my enforcers will go with you when you have to go out. Emma wanted to say no. She knew it was wrong, but she couldn't fight the feeling anyway. She was strong. She was independent. She was a woman, but she wasn't stupid. Sean was right. She wasn't safe here if that maniac was roaming around the forest to her camp. She looked around and then back at Sean. All right. If you need help, we can get this packed up pretty quick, and then I'll follow you back. Sean lifted her hand to his lips, brushing a soft kiss over her knuckles. The temptation just right there for the picking. The simple act had her relaxing a little, while her heart seemed to stumble a moment before finding its rhythm once again. That rhythm is sin. I'm here to tell you. She remembered the feel of lips on hers as he kissed her, and how they felt like fire as he kissed her skin. The hand that held hers a moment longer had been strong yet gentle, coaxing responses from her, sending her to new heights she had never been before, sending her to the mountaintop of sin.
I have been released.
Emma hadn't had many lovers, preferring the company of wolves over people, but now she understood part of her obsession. She wanted to be near where he was. Her wolf had pushed her in the direction she needed to go, even when she hadn't known she was being pushed. Sean had shown her how wild and free she could be, helping her to shift and making love to her under the stars first, then in her tent, and in her bed, and anywhere else that them wolves wanted to go.
Get that booty.
She could feel the wolf stirring at his touch, reaching out to his wolf, even as the woman was reaching out to the man. She looked up to see him watching her. His eyes were the warm, golden amber of his wolf, his hand tightening on hers. Then he stood and walked around the table and pulled her to her feet. Cupping the back of her head, he claimed her lips in a deep, sensual kiss that she felt clear to her toes. She clung to him, desperate for more, moaned in protest when he broke the kiss because she couldn't get enough of it.
Hey, man.
Promise you'll come to me tonight. Emma nodded. I promise. He kissed her again, then stepped back to give them both some distance from each other. Let's get you packed up. I need to meet with my enforcers. Emma nodded again, then turned to look at her camp. She had just set everything up and felt like she had just settled in. Now she had to pack everything again and go to where Sean's pack was and unpack so many packs. She was so not looking forward to this. She put her equipment away. She glanced at her cell phone and made a mental note to call Tom. Don't know why she wanted to do that at this point. The first chance she got. He needed to know what was going on, and not just because he was her boss, because he was also her hand, her friend, and the man that knew she was out there sitting. She not only had to tell him what was going on, but assure her she was okay. Emma packed as Sean lowered the back of her Jeep, both working to get it done. They had to get it done together. They couldn't do it separately. They had to do it together, I'm telling you.
Oh, yeah, pack it.
When she picked up her pack, she carried it. When she was out the day before, a small memory card fell out. Picking it up, she looked at it at a moment, then heard Deshaun, who was tearing down her tent. Oh my God, I forgot. She showed him the memory card. If Corbin killed a shifter anywhere around my camp or some of the game trails, it might be on my trail cams. I put them up yesterday. Sean took the memory card from her and then kissed her that seemingly deep, lustful, sinful kiss. You're a genius. I'll send a couple of my guys out to bring in anything that has a picture on it. He started to pull out his phone, but she stopped him. Yes, she did. Wait until I get to them. I have cards that can replace the ones they take out. I'm still out here to do a job. Plus, you never know what we can catch on them. Sean handed back the memory card, squeezing her hand as it closed around the card, picturing it might have been something else. You got it. Now let's finish and get out of here. Emma followed Sean to the lodge that held his office at home. As they pulled up, a large group of men stood facing each other. They were protectors. They were enforcers. Reminded Emma of her rival gang members facing off. Voices were getting louder and louder as Emma stopped her Jeep next to Sean's bike. Sean barely turned off the bike before he jumped off of it and ran. Pushing his way into the middle of them, Emma turned her Jeep off and followed them, weaving through the men until she stood by Sean. What the? I demand you give her to us now so we can take her back to her family. Emma studied the blond man in front of Sean. He growled low. Oh, yes, he did. And stepped up to Sean, leaning in menacingly. Sean held up his hand as the men behind him all growled in unison, stepping closer. Everybody calm the fuck down. Sean's commanding voice affected everybody, and they all seemed to shriek back. I'm Sean O'Reilly, alpha of the pack. Who the fuck are you? Dawson Cruz. My pride just settled in the pass a few weeks ago. One of your men came to us and told us what had happened. When we got here, your men refused to even let us see the lioness that was killed. We were only waiting for you, Ben said as he moved to stand next to Sean, who nodded to the lion. I'm here now. Sorry for the delay. Yeah, which voice is this? It couldn't be helped. Of course, you can take your lioness home to her family, but I think you and I should talk first. I have information you want to hear. My office is just over there. There was a tense moment of silence, and Emma wasn't sure what had happened. To her, it all seemed like they were ready to attack each other. For a moment, no one moved. No one said a damn thing. Fists clenched, growls in the air. Emma felt the now familiar flutter of her wolf. Oh, my goodness! Her muscles rippled as her wolf started to pace, growling in her head. She moved closer to Sean, not sure what would happen if she suddenly shifted. Could only make matters worse. Dawson Cruz appeared less aggressive than the others, but he was the first line shifter she had ever met. Still, he and Sean seemed to be sizing each other up for a moment until Cruz nodded, then turned to one of his men, speaking to him in hushed tones. Sean did the same thing, turned to his men, saying something to the man beside him that she couldn't hear. Then he turned to her. Go get those extra memory cards. Ben will head out and see what he can find while I talk to Cruz here. Some of my guys will take you to a small cabin and help you unpack. I'll come find you when I'm done. Sean gave her a quick wink before leading the line shifter to the lodge. I'm Ben. Like Batman. Emma pulled her eyes from Sean to look at the man next to her. He was a little taller than Sean, with black hair hanging down to his collar. Hippie, and the greenest eyes she had ever seen. She smiled at him and held out her hand. Dr. Emma Russo. Ben's hand engulfed hers, and he gave her a squeeze before letting it go. I guess trying to get a piece of the action himself. He looked back at Jimmy and then to Emma. Jimmy and I will go look for those trail cams. How far away from your camp should we look? I went about a quarter of a mile in both directions on the game trail that ran just east of my camp. They're about 2 each way. I have more memory cards in the Jeep. Emma led Ben to the Jeep and handed him the cards he needed, then watched as the wolves unloaded her gear and lickety split time. Them boys are fast. Following them to a cabin across from the lodge, she had looked around. It was all quite the setup from what she could see. Looked like a church camp, if you know what I mean. 2 rows of cabins surrounding a large clearing that the pack used for ceremonies and other functions. Oh, Lord, they used it for ceremonies and other functions. On one end of the
Jesus there.
On one end was a playground for the kids with swings and other equipment, along with a basketball court. On the other end were picnic tables and other seating. They all held packed ceremonies in the middle of the clearing in front of what Sean called the lodge, which had been his office and residence all along with a small meeting room. Emma stayed outside the small cabin. Sean had pointed to her and waited for the men to set down her stuff and then left. Stepping inside, she looked around, trying to decide where to put her things. She unpacked. Once again, having to unpack. How many more damn times is a woman going to have to unpack? Once again, setting up her equipment so she could do her job. She thought about Sean and what had happened last night. Oh, she couldn't get it out of her head, all the sinning. It was so unlike her to sleep with someone she had just met, but she was so drawn to Sean that it seemed unnatural. It seemed unholy. She needed to talk to Tom about it, but she wasn't sure she was ready for the lecture. No, she wasn't up for a lecture. She'd had to figure it out all on her own as to why she chose to get into that gravest depravity of sin. Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Yeah.
Holy Lord.
I have been saved.
Whew. Whew.
That was intense.
I've been filled with the spirit, so to speak.
Been filled with something.
Are you talking, Shizzy? I'm eating. So, like, if you hear me chewing.
I'm sorry. I boomered it just a little bit.
I'm like, I think he's talking.
Yeah, I was. You're very observant.
Yeah.
We've hit that 2-hour mark. So if you guys want to, we can continue on. It'll go past 2-hour mark. but it's up to the rest of the panel. What you
I'm
want?
fine with it.
Oh, I'm fine.
Let's roll.
Okay.
I don't care.
Okay. We'll finish
else
out this
wants to?
chapter. So it is Miss Nocturna, and I have a story to finish out this chapter.
There you go.
Okay.
Mhm.
Alrighty. I always have a hard time following all the great ones. So, but anyway, here we go.
Oh, but you're great in your own. That's the best part. Oh
I'm
yes.
right behind you.
So
Be careful.
Dang it. Here we go now. All right. Sean let out a breath and closed his eyes as he leaned back in his chair. Dawson Cruz had been furious and devastated when he had told him about James Corbin. He knew what the lion shifter was feeling and thinking. The rage and the sense of helplessness as he wondered how he could keep his pride safe. Sean had been through all those emotions and more, with a promise to keep each other apprised of what they'd learned and did about Corbin. The lion shifter left, taking his pride member home to her family. Now all Sean wanted was to be with Emma. He sat up as the door to his office opened, and as if on cue, Emma walked in and stood in front of the desk.
Hi, are you free?
She smiled and nodded. Yes. Did you get your equipment set up, Emma? Or get your set up? Emma nodded. Sean stood and walked around his desk, sat on the edge and pulled her into his arms when she reached him. Lowering his head, he brushed a soft kiss over her lips and pulled back, studying her. We should talk about last night. Emma caught her bottom lip in her teeth, and something flashed in her eyes as she tried to step back, but Sean tightened his hold. Was that panic? He gave her a half grin before kissing her again. Oh, wait a minute. Well, Emma's going to sound like a man today. Don't panic, Emma. It's not bad. In fact, if I recall, it was pretty damn good. He watched as red creeped across her face, and he caressed her cheek. Don't be embarrassed. One thing you'll find about wolves is that they're not shy. We are very comfortable with our bodies, and once we find our mate, we are protective, passionate, and loyal. Emma laughed.
I picked up the whole. Sorry. I picked up on the whole being comfortable with your body last night, but I never thought I was shy myself. But I have never been naked outside, not even the first time I shifted. When I shifted back, I was in a neighbor's garage hiding from animal control. That was a wild night. Woohoo!
Oh boy, I had a night, I swear.
Oh, what a night, man.
What the hell happened? Sean laughed and rubbed her arms. Speaking of shifting, I haven't found a chance to even know how you were feeling after shifting last night. Oh, God.
Well, you know.
It's shifting around here.
Not as sore as I thought I'd be.
Her smile widened.
At least not where I thought I'd be.
It's awesome. Sean chuckled. That's good to know. Can you feel her now?
Phrasing?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh yeah, she felt it.
Oh, yeah, she did.
Sure felt something.
Emma nodded, putting her hand over her heart.
It feels like she's pacing and excited. I feel this pulling. It's hard to explain.
She frowned, and Sean reached up to brush her back.
Her hair back. Oh, I thought he said her back hair. I was like, she has back hair now. No wonder he's so turned on.
What's wrong? Emma swallowed
tries
and
the
let out a
fetish
slow
websites,
breath.
yes.
She wants out. And she wants your wolf. This is all so foreign to me.
She shook her head.
Don't mind me. I'm just trying to make sense of it all.
I'll give you my wolf. Sean nodded. Mine is doing the same thing. Do you know what they are pulling to get? Do you know why they are pulling to get each other? Emma shook her head.
I don't know. This is all so confusing. I mean,
A knock on the office door stopped her from saying any more. She turned around and they both watched as Ben and Jimmy bow, chicka, bow, bow, walked into the office.
That's strange, that last name there.
Ben held up a small memory card, his face grim. Emma and Sean looked at each other, then moved apart as Ben held out the card to her. I was expecting only pictures, but apparently some of your cameras take video. Emma nodded.
I got them on my OnlyFans now.
OnlyFans, shit.
You never want to leave evidence.
Emma nodded as she looked at the card Ben handed to her. We watched this one, and I have another that's just pictures. Ben looked at Sean and shook his head. It's gruesome, Sean. That son of a bitch is the devil himself. I've never seen anything like it before. Sean took the memory card from Emma and walked around his desk, slipping it into his computer. That almost got a little weird there for a minute.
Slipping something there.
Yeah.
Slipping something
If you
somewhere.
gotta slip it in, slip it in.
In my prison pocket. This is my
Well,
computer.
if she won't do, there's always the CD-ROM.
At least it's not a floppy
Wow,
disk.
your RAM is so big. Oh.
Can never get that door to open.
Like that worm.
Emma followed him and sat down in his chair, typing a few commands on his computer until the contents of the card came up. He looked at the timestamp. There was almost 3 hours worth of video on it. Heck yeah. Emma had told him that the cameras were all triggered by motion, but were low enough that blowing leaves and branches wouldn't set it off. Ben and Jimmy joined them as she started the video. That sounds like a party to me. All right.
Well, you know, there was this one time at band camp.
This one time at band camp? At first, all they saw were deer and fox chasing a rabbit. Then a large mountain lion came into view and they all tensed. They watched as it walked around the clearing, sniffing the air and the surrounding ground. Its head suddenly snapped up and looked around. Then Emma gasped, and it stumbled back suddenly and started to bleed from its neck. It was hit again, close to the first bullet hole, and dropped to the ground. Rage filled Sean, and the three men came into view. He didn't have to see the taller man's face. He knew it was James Corbin by the signature while hair and stocky build. Corbin dropped to one knee and pulled a large syringe out of his pocket, sticking it into the lion. When the man pulled out his knife, the lion was still gasping for air, its blood spilling on the ground around its head. Emma cried out, and her hand flew to her mouth when the man sank the knife into the back of the lion. The animal, jerking, tried to claw the ground. Sean put his hand on her shoulder, wanting to pull her away from what he knew was about to follow. She shook her head. Her entire body started to tremble.
it's still alive. Tell me that.
She didn't finish her sentence. The lion finally, thankfully, stopped moving as Corbin continued to skin it. At one point, Corbin looked up and directly at the camera. Sean reached over Emma's shoulder and stopped the camera. Corbin's face froze in time. Sean turned to look at Ben and Jimmy, their faces red with anger and Ben clenching his fist. Jimmy, make me 2 copies of this. I'll send the one to Cruz so he has evidence, and the other will be backup. I'll put it in my safe. Ben? Ben's entire body was taut. His jaw clenched as tight as his fist and his breath coming in short pants. His neck was corded. His nostrils flared, and he looked ready to attack anyone who got in his way. Sean couldn't blame the man. Sean's heart seemed to thunder in his ears, and his muscles twitched with his wolf's need to shift and kill. But one of them had to keep a level head, and it wouldn't be Ben. Ben, I need you to calm down. Ben's eyes flew to Sean, and he knew he needed to tread lightly. I need you to keep your head right now. I need all the enforcers to round up the pack and bring them in. I don't want anyone out there. There's safety in numbers. Tomorrow we'll get that fucker. But tonight, we need to make sure everyone is safe. The two men stared at each other, looking much like the standoff earlier with the lion shifters. Ben's eyes changed to the golden amber of his wolf, and a low growl escaped his lips. Sean narrowed his eyes and reached deep, pulling his alpha energy, pulling his shoulders back and growling. He could feel his uncertainty and Jimmy's nervousness, but it was Ben he concentrated on. Sean pushed out his energy, his hair standing on end, and bared his teeth. Ben finally seemed to relax his body, taking a step back, his wolf recognizing his alpha. His eyes remained their golden amber, but Sean knew that he could be reasoned with now. He hated pulling that card on Ben. They were best friends, and he was as close to Ben as he was his own brothers. Go. Get the guys out of here and go in twos. I don't want anyone being alone. Ben gave him a curt nod and left the office. Sean watched him leave and turned back to the computer and turned it off, pulling the memory card out and handing it to Jimmy. Pocketing the card, Jimmy left the office and Sean turned to Emma. She sat there, staring at the screen, tears streaming down her face, her body still shaking. He pulled her out of the chair and wrapped his arms around her, holding her close. The man is a monster. Emma's voice was muffled, but he knew what she'd said, and he kissed the top of her hair. Yes, he is, but you're safe, sweetheart. I won't let anything happen to you. I promise. Emma pulled back suddenly, her eyes wide.
The wolf pack that was released, are they safe?
They are. He only goes after shifters. The wolves that were released are smaller than us shifters, wolf shifters. But if it will make you feel better, I'll send a couple of guys out tomorrow to look for them.
Thank you.
Speaking of safe, I want you to move your things in here with me. Keep your equipment in the other cabinet, but I'd feel better knowing you're safe.
And get a little bounce.
Emma leaned back and studied him for a moment, her lips twitching.
I'm safe just being in the compound area. That's what you said.
Sean chuckled. Yeah, that's what I said that. Okay, I just want you here with me.
I want to be here with you too, and it would make me feel safer.
Sean kissed her. Good. I'll show you around. Then we can get your stuff and bring it back here. He tucked her hair behind her ear and kissed her again. Hopefully that will take your mind off what we just saw. Emma's smile slipped as she shook her head. Where am I?
Right here.
Yeah.
I don't think anything will take my mind off that. He needs to be stopped, Sean. He has to.
I know, Emma. We'll get him, I promise.
What a good
Dun,
read.
dun, dun.
Damn, girl.
Like it.
Uh-oh. Now we've got
Oh.
Oof.
Bum, bum, bum.
Oh, you want me? Okay.
Yeah, you're up, brother.
All right. Chapter 15. Let me see here. The wolf cub limped through the dark, wet forest, feeling scared, lost, and hungry. She didn't know how long she'd been walking, only that it was daylight when she started running, and now it was very, very dark and very scary. She needed her mommy and daddy, but she didn't know where they were. Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a loud clap of thunder, making her heart pound so fast that it could have burst out of her tiny chest. The rain had stopped not long ago, but it had started coming down once more, making her even colder than she already was. She just wanted to go home. The problem was, she didn't know where home was. She was lost, but she kept on walking, hoping that her parents would find her. The last time she'd seen her parents, they were growling and snarling like she'd never heard them growl before, putting themselves between her and the man who walked out of the forest into the clearing the three of them had been playing in. They were helping her shift into her wolf, then change back into a little girl again. She was getting pretty good at shifting, but she always had trouble turning back, like now. She whimpered as the rain started falling harder and caused her to slip and slide in the mud, unable to keep her balance. Finally, she made out some bushes that were big enough for her to take refuge in and get warm. Crawling into a small opening, she burrowed as far as she could, which wasn't very far, but at least she was out of the rain. She was still cold, her body trembling as she lay down and curled up tight, trying to stay warm. She could hardly keep her eyes open, but she fought sleep as long as she could, still hoping that maybe her mommy and daddy would find her. Finally, sleep came, and her last thought was how much she wanted to be home, in her own bed, with the pink cover and her stuffed wolf in her arms. Her mommy would tuck her in, and her daddy would read her a story until she fell asleep. A loud crack of thunder woke the cub, and she looked around. She had shifted back into a little girl while she slept, and now she was even colder than before. She heard footsteps outside her little shelter and scrambled to crawl out. It had to be her daddy. It just had to. And she crawled out from under the bushes. It wasn't her daddy who greeted her, but James Corbin, holding her mother's skinned pelt. The little girl screamed. Emma sat up, the scream echoing through the room as she sat tangled in sweat-soaked sheets. The bedroom door burst open and Sean ran to her. When he sat down, she nearly knocked him back when she jumped into his arms. She held on for dear life as she gasped for air, her entire body shaking as the remnants of the dream slowly edged away. Sean held her, stroking her hair, gently rocking her. When she finally took a deep, shuddering breath, he pulled back and gently wiped her tears from her cheek. What happened, Emma? What scared you so much? Emma squeezed her eyes closed and gave a slight shake of her head before opening her eyes again. I have this recurring nightmare of the night my parents were killed. It's one of those few things I remember about them. She wiped away tears as she spoke. I remember the man who found me, but never knew who he was. She swallowed, her breathing ragged. Sean, it was Corbin. James Corbin killed my parents. Sean ran his hand up her bare arms, stopping at her shoulders and frowned. Are you sure?
Sorry.
She nodded.
Sorry. You did say arm. Okay.
Yeah.
You did say arm.
I'll never forget his face. He had so much He was so much younger. He had much younger, fuck it. But I have had this nightmare several times a week since I was little.
You're welcome.
Damn fall storm again. He has always been my savior. Not that asshole. He was the man who took me to town and made sure I was taken care of before he disappeared. Until now. Until I saw the footage. I wish you hadn't seen the footage. It was not my good side. It was a bad thing. Emma shook her head. No, I'm glad. I've never known what happened to my parents. Only that they died, and I was alone. Their killer was just a demon who destroyed my life. If I'd known who the monster is, I can fight him. Sean brushed his fingers lightly over Emma's face, then moved his hand over the back of her neck, pulling her closer, kissing her lightly on her lips. It was meant to comfort, but it ignited a fire inside her that slowly began to burn.
Hey!
Round 2, fight!
Yeah, there we go. Ooh, just like makeup sex. She ran her hands up his chest to cup his face as she deepened the kiss. His hands moved down her back, and he pulled her against his hard chest. Emma sighed again. Emma sighed against his mouth, melting into the kiss. He tasted of mint and whiskey mixed with something earthy and sweet, making an intoxicating combination. She broke the kiss, leaned back a little, and looked into a pair of golden eyes. Her heart tilted, then tumbled completely, and it hit her. She loved him. Her wolf stirred as she felt the now familiar flutter in her body, and her muscles twitched.
We're about to go doggy style.
Yeah. She loved this man whom she hadn't even known for a week. Sean had explained how when a wolf found its mate, that it didn't matter if the two people had known each other a day or 10 years. Once mates found each other, they just knew.
My muscles are getting bigger. Oh, yes, the muscles. The muscles are getting big from the pump.
I couldn't help it. I had to do it.
My muscles.
My muscles.
Sean's eyebrows knitted together, and he tilted his head. Are you okay? Are we mates, Sean?
We are what we want to be, baby.
Yeah, baby.
There was only a moment's hesitation before he answered her. Smiling and nodding, he kissed her again. You're following your wolf instincts, aren't you? Emma shook her head and smiled. Yes and no. I just realized that I love you, and my wolf made me realize that you are our mate. What? That you are our mate? How many voices does she have?
A lot. Voices in her head.
All this shifting makes the tucking hard.
Thing.
Makes the tucking hard.
Sean's smile slipped away, and he kissed her again, then trailed soft kisses across her cheeks until his warm breath tickled her ear. Now it's not that time, Emma. But when we mate, you... Wait a minute, didn't they already screw? And when we will mate, we will make love. And then Oh, I'm doing the wrong voice. And we will make love. And when I am buried deep inside you...
No!
Wow.
Oh.
Snape sounds sexy.
You let me violate you.
And when I am buried deep inside of you, Hermione... sorry, wrong story.
You're just a child.
Harry Potter is an asshole. You want to know, don't you? He trailed kisses down her neck until he came to the wet spot. Oh, no, to the spot where, sorry. I don't know why I threw that out there. Until he came to the spot. Oh, my God. Until he came to the spot where her neck curved into her shoulder, then nipped her and whispered, I'll bite you right there, and we'll be mated.
My muscles are getting bigger. Oh, yes, the muscles. The muscles are getting big from the pump.
He has an odd sense of what mating is. Wait a minute. Did I miss a part here? Where'd I go? Something about against.
I might have. Sorry.
And then would it be mated? Emma shivered as goosebumps spread across her skin when he nipped her. Sean pulled back and kissed her again, pushing back against the mattress. Looking down at her, his look serious, he searched her eyes. I'm going to make love to you, Emma. My mate. My love.
Ooh.
Emma gave him a soft smile and nodded, moving her hand to the back of her neck. Then stop talking and kiss me again, big boy.
Oh my God, you guys are awesome. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
So good.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes. Yes. And yes.
So good. So good.
Well,
Oh,
I'd say that's another successful Sunday.
Yeah.
yes. We managed to break our chat.
I think we did break the chat. It was like, whoa.
We're like, whoa, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Oh, and not the thought Debbie Webb wanted in her head. well, just wait. You want it to be next Sunday already? Oh, will be.
I know, right?
You just wait. Next Sunday gets even more interesting.
There's nothing wrong with my wolf loving you.
Oh,
yes,
Schooner.
Schooner time.
Now, just know, all you fine people, that after the stream, I'll have all the links posted up there to all these fine people, except Miss Nocturne. She doesn't like to provide her links or kinks. So
that's not true. That's not true.
One day that Patreon link will show right up.
Yeah, it might just show
OnlyFans link.
That's right. Diversify.
I'm just saying, getting down dirty. But yeah, so make sure that you go and check all these fine people out. This is Sunday Spice. Every Sunday that we possibly can, we do this. And sometimes it's really dirty. Sorry.
So naughty.
Look, anytime we read Teresa's books, it's gonna be naughty. I'm just telling you right now.
Just saying.
Saying.
And also make sure that you check out Teresa Finn. She is a writer. This is book 2 that we're working through. Book 2, part 2. And this is what we do. Everybody, have a wonderful evening. We pushed it a little bit further than we normally would, but everyone, just know that we'll be back Sunday as far as we can get there.
Thank you, everybody.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you,
All right, everyone.
Thanks all.
Peace.
Have a great week.
Peace.
I love a buttered biscuit.
Well, you're handling that mic pretty well.
Yeah.